Ladies and gentlemen, today's guest is Rusty Creasey, a guide and manager of the CocaCola Woods for 20 years. Rusty is a member of Team Realtree, Echo Calls, and Banded Brands. He's been featured in countless magazines and videos, sharing his passion for waterfowling with the world. Echo Calls even has a line of duck calls named after Rusty. Throughout his experience, he's gained a wealth of knowledge about duck behavior and habitat management that he is eager to share with us today. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Rusty Creasey to the Fowl Minds podcast. Well, Rusty, welcome to the Fowl Minds podcast.
Appreciate the invite. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining. I know we don't really know each other. To me, that speaks a lot about your character to be willing to sit down with just some regular old dudes like us.
But man, I'm no different than y'all. So where's home for y'all real quick before we get into this?
I'm from just south of Houston in Pearland. You could say the city's kind of grown up around me now. I'm pretty much engulfed in the city. Haiden, I'll let you speak.
I live about 45 minutes north of Austin, little town called Taylor, Texas. Kind of the same thing as Clayton. You know, all the people from California are moving into Austin, crowding around Taylor. So all of we're becoming engulfed in Austin, just like where Clayton lives.
Yeah, unfortunately, y'all are a little bit behind us. What about you, Rusty?
I'm around McCroy, close to McCroy, Arkansas. I'm kind of halfway between Little Rock and Memphis. Like if you're on I-40, I'm about 20 miles north of 40. That tornado that came from Little Rock and hit wind went about 3 or 4 miles south of the lodge area of the CocaCola Woods. So we dodged the bullet. It was in the air when it come through here, but boy, wind's about 20 minutes from the lodge. The lodge is only 10 minutes here from the house in McCroy, but man, it tore stuff up over there. And then obviously you've seen Little Rock on the news, I know. So we dodged the bullet. I would have I can't imagine losing your home and thinking about it hitting those woods. It just makes me sick to my stomach. So I'm glad we missed it, but I hate it for the ones that got it.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that it missed you. But interestingly enough, with tornadoes, I think Hayden's got a tornado story he wouldn't mind sharing. Haiden he got leveled not long ago there out of go ahead, Haiden.
Last year. Yeah. Yeah, so I know all about those. They're not fun, man. I saw it on the news, and they were covering Arkansas. We have a duck club in Mississippi, and you and I, Rusty, we've talked on Messenger before about it, and it went about an hour from our camp in Rolling Fort, and it just leveled the town, man. And I saw what those people went through, and I know exactly how it feels. And tornadoes they're tough, man, because there's nothing you can do. I mean, it's gonna get you. You can't run them. You can't move. It's happening, you know. And I'm glad y'all were safe, and I feel terrible for them people that got hit. But yeah, I hunted in Arkansas this year. I've never been a big snow goose hunter, and this year I duck hunted a lot in Mississippi, and I wasn't ready to quit, so I went up to your neck of the woods with my buddy Dusty Barber, and
yeah, on the deck.
Yeah, man, and hunted up there and snow goose hunting and had a ball. And he actually drove me by your place and showed me y'all's woods as I was asking him about it. So I know exactly where you're at.
Yeah, you should have stopped by. I'd give you the nickel tour, man. I went with Dusty on a spec hunt through Realtree during I guess it was before duck season, and man, just top notch, just good people. I mean, you can't control what the geese do. You know, all you can do is control the controllables and play the hand you're dealt. And they fed us good. Everything was great. Now, the first day was a little slow. Second day, we burned them pretty good. But those guys work hard, him and Kevin and all the other guides down there and stuff. They did a good job. And I get a lot of people asking me, you know, recommendations on where to hunt and stuff. And I try to send a lot of people their way because I know their character and I know what they'll do to put themselves in in a position to succeed. And yeah, I was impressed and had a great time with them. Good guys.
Yeah, Dusty and I have been talking for a few years before, you know, because I'm in the hunting business too. That's what I do is whitetail, exotics, dove hunts, and turkey hunts. And him and I have been talking, and I finally looked up with him. Man, it's like you're hunting with family when you're with him, with
Absolutely.
buddy. There's
Did he do the card tricks for you?
No, he didn't. But he
Oh,
cooked. He cooked, man. He cooks good. We're going back. Me and my buddy went up there, and I'm gonna take I'm gonna try to get Clayton to go. We're gonna go up and do a duck spec hunt with him. You know, sometime this year because we saw a lot of ducks when we were there, and it'd be something different to go see. You know, than
oh
where
yeah.
we normally. Hunt.
Right. Well, when you're that close, make sure you look me up, man. Give you the little nickel dime tour.
Oh yeah, for sure. But man, followed you for a long time. You know, when we started this duck club in Mississippi, I really got into the habitat stuff, you know, the planting and moist soil and all that. And the guys that are the owners of the club and in the club, they're all farmers. And that makes it easy, right? To have farmers that want to kill ducks. And I watched all of your videos about it. And I know there's a lot of people you probably get a lot of private messages about, you know, farming for ducks. And I think it's an art, you know, because you can't control it, right? You got to deal with Mother Nature and flooding and drought and all that stuff and insects and everything. But I wanted to pick your brain on that and also, you know, talk to you about the CocaCola Woods, because I know that place has a lot of history and is known to be a good place that, you know, you've, you know, helped or the reason why, right? Doing all the planning and all that stuff. So it's kind of what we wanted to talk about. And one thing that sticks
Absolutely.
one thing that sticks out in my mind because we were kind of going through the same thing was last year you planted that short corn. Did something happen with your rice or something like that where you had to go in and plant short corn? And can you tell us about
Well,
that?
I can. So the Coca-Cola Woods is 1,040 acres, and it's right here east of McCroy. And I do have some corn there, but back in 2000 and I think it was in 17, Mr. Dobbs, who owns it, bought another little tract of ground up in the White River Bottoms. And that is the tract where actually I did the short season corn. It's 30 minutes from the home place. So it stands on its own. It's in a completely different little area. Lots of good whitetails, lots of potential for ducks. It joins white oaks. You know, Jeff's done a great job developing that, and we kind of join him on one corner there. So it's in a great area, and we've got it levied up for ducks, but we just didn't utilize it the years that we pumped it up. But there's so much potential for deer. And then when the river gets up, you know, we were able to pump it as well. We've got 2 wells and can flood about 300 acres, but we found it's better when the river comes up, and we really don't hunt it unless the river's up. So rather than spending a bunch of money on fuel this year, we decided we're going to strictly manage it for deer. Unless the river comes up, then we'll go duck hunt it. So I had planted beans and corn, and I had planted full season corn, and that was when we had the drought, you know, in late June and July, or yeah, I guess it was June and into July, and my corn, it never rained, so it never came up, and wasn't able to get it in the moisture when I planted it. So anyway, it laid there, and that's when I come in with the short season stuff, you know. So same technique, whether it'd been at the home place or at the Augusta property, would have applied. But one of my best friends is works for Pioneer, what used to be Pioneer. They've been bought since Pioneer Seed, and man, he knows it inside and out. And he actually was at a meeting, and I called him. I was like, man, this corn ain't coming up. I've got to, you know, is there a short season corn? And we come up with that 78-day corn, and golly, the interest in that stuff was just unbelievable. People followed it. And I mean, I do all this to help people and to teach people. for one, just to get them to get the most out of what they've got, you know. And that was just one of those deals, you know, I didn't really want to quit on my stuff. I wanted to make something, and it made really well. The downside, the only bad thing I could see was the stalks were a little spindly, so coons and stuff were able to ride it down a little worse. I feel like it probably gives out. I don't know if how much corn y'all have fooled with, but like sweet corn that we eat, if you plant sweet corn and field corn side by side, the coons will walk across the field corn to get to that sweet corn, and they will absolutely maul your sweet corn patch. And I don't know if it's a smell or what. It's got to be an odor. But I think this.
The humans do too, huh?
Right.
Depending on
right.
how far it is off the road.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But so what happened? The coons got in it pretty hard. I feel like it was probably some odor. But with all that being said, I was impressed to make an ear. You know, some of them bigger as a Coke can. You know, an 8-inch ear that big. I mean, it was easily 120 bushel probably in most places. You know, if you can make 100 bushel corn in 78 days, that's pretty strong, especially if it's just for ducks. Now you'll go broke farming doing that, but if you're farming for ducks and deer, that's a lot of food. So it ended up making great. The deer the river never really got up during duck season, so it never really got flooded, but the deer absolutely loved it. And we had a great deer season on it. Now, again, it would have been all the same if it had been at the home place and we'd flooded it for ducks. It would have been unbelievable because we don't have near the deer population over here at the CocaCola Woods as we do the other property. And but yeah, man, I was blown away by it. Blown away by it. I think there's a little something there, you know, for this wildlife stuff. I think you could. We've schemed on it. I ain't gonna show my hand, but I think there's a niche right there of a corn variety that maybe it's a blend of 70 something day, 90 something day, and 100 something day that you plant at the same time, and maybe it comes off earlier. And worst case scenario, 2 out of 3 make or 1 out of 3 make, or you know, on a normal year they all make just at different times. And I don't know. We're kicking some ideas around, and but yeah, I was impressed with it. And like I said, the interest of people, you know, it's just showing people that, well, you know, he could have easily threw his hands up and just threw some millet out there, but that ain't what I wanted to do. And which again, I was doing it for the deer mainly, so I didn't really care. You know, I didn't want millet, but yeah, man, it did well. But as you know, my bread and butter at the lodge is rice. You know, I love a crop of rice.
Yeah, I follow your videos and watch you play in the mud with your four-wheeler, planting that rice. And I was gonna ask, you know, how I see you doing it. Are you planting that rice in your whole area that you hunt, or just certain areas and hunting close to it? Or
So the way the woods lay, you've got 520 acres of timber with a levee that goes all the way around it. Everything floods inside that except for maybe 2 acres of one little ridge. And we've got 19 holes inside the woods. Now, some of those holes are a quarter of an acre. Some of them, my biggest one, maybe 2 acres. So obviously we're not going to hunt a 2-acre hole. You know, we're going to hunt the smaller spots. I mean, if you've seen the videos, you know, we don't hunt any just huge holes. A huge hole for us would be, well, probably a quarter to, you know, a little over a quarter of an acre would be really big, like the donut hole or the gar hole, you know. That's as big a hole as we'll hunt. So with that being said, I do plant those holes, but I don't mind it if it doesn't come up real thick in places, just because, you know, you want to show water. But you know, as far as a lot of the bigger holes, they lay on the outside edge of the woods, and I'm able to back water in them. And I'm just planting, you know, let's just say I plant 19 holes. Well, out of those 19 holes, I only hunt 5 is all we'll hunt. And we only hunt 1 hole a day. So that's just giving you food spread out all over the property. And, you know, you take a quarter acre hole, let's just say it makes 15 bushels of rice. And somebody, man, that's 15 bushels. Well, you know, that's let's say 15 times 50, which is a little more than a bushel, but that's 750 pounds. That's
Yeah.
15 50-pound bags of rice. When you look at that, you're like, oh, heck, you can feed quite a bit on that. So that's my thinking on that. The ducks don't come to our woods to eat. They come there because of the pressure all around. We hunt one hole. We don't shoot into huge groups of ducks early. We quit hunting by 9:30, no later than 10 every day. So they're coming there because, and when you've got that big of a track and you only hunt one hole, that gives a lot of spots that the ducks can get down and not get shot. Food is important, but I feel like low pressure is even more important than having groceries, because the duck's going to find something to eat. So all those areas are pretty much rest areas. The bigger holes, they're going to make better. They get more sun. But the little old holes, and I try to encourage people, if you can get some sunlight to it and make a little bit, man, plant it. All you're out's a little seed, a little sweat, a little time. What if that one little old bit that you planted makes those ducks come back for one more day? And what if you take a kid or you take a friend on his first hunt and y'all have a great little hunt, just the two of you? And what if it was because you sweated a little and you worked and did that little bit of extra and you bought yourself one more hunt? Well, now, man, all that work's worth it. And that's just the message I try to send to people, is that, yeah, I'm dealt a good hand, but there's somebody with a better hand than I am. There's somebody with a better place than I am. But all you can do is make the best out of what you got, So that's kind of the thinking going into it. And that's kind of the message I try to send people.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yep. We've maybe not the right analogy for that, but it reminds me a lot of scouting on public land. I like to hunt more or less populous areas for the reason that you stated, right? It's like pressure matters so much. And not only that, I don't really like to have people shoot at birds when they're swinging and stuff like that. So there's
right.
But yeah, it's like the scouting aspect of it for me. It's like leave no stone. You're going to feel good about it at the end of the day, no matter what happens, if you put in every ounce of work you can just to be prepared, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, the same goes with anything in life, but you can take that and run with it any direction you want to go, but especially on hunting, if you're willing to walk a little further or work a little harder, then you should generally get a little more success than the next guy.
No doubt.
No. Rusty, do you want to share with us your first duck hunt? Do you remember your first time duck hunting?
I do remember my first duck hunt. It was on, so the property, the original CocaCola property is in two sections over there. There's 640 acres, which is what I call the juice, the good stuff. And then there's 400 acres on the Bayou to View. Well, duck hunting's changed, and a lot of these areas aren't as good as they used to be, just because there's more people hunting and it's harder. And the ducks, I feel like, have gotten conditioned to rest areas and food and stuff like that. So kind of hunting that bio now, it's at times it's great, but it's not as consistent as it used to be. So all that being said, back when I was young, there was a few years there the CocaCola Woods didn't get flooded. There was some stuff going on with the owners then, family. Anyway, all that being said, I was hunting on the Bayou to View. So yes, I was 5. I was on Cheatham Lake on the Bayou to View. I carried a Chipmunk 22 that I still have today. That my first gun that my daddy bought and gave me. With my uncle and my brother. And if y'all have watched anything, you've heard me talk about. Obviously, you see my brother. He's my dog guy. He's my right hand man at the lodge, and he looks like my daddy. But because he's 15 years older than I am. But then my uncle Harvey Shue, who was a dog trainer and was a manager of the CocaCola Woods for over 40 years, I was with them too, and they just took me just so I would have a gun. I never shot at a duck. I shoot a 22, obviously, but I remember throwing a can or something out there, and I got to shoot at it. But I got to watch them, and man, I was a little fella. I think I was 5, 6 years old, and it was cold, and we were in a big blind. But that's kind of all I remember about it. I know it didn't kill anything. I think I was right across from where that blind was. Is where I called my first ducks in. I think I was 10 or 11. It's just me and Harvey, and blowing old Hayden's DR85. How many people have blown that call? and learned to blow that call. And I'll never forget, I had his field champion dog sitting beside me, Tom, and he had went after a crippled duck Harvey had, and 2 old drakes come over, and I hit them the best I knew how, and they turn and make one circle, and I had a god awful feed call, but it worked that day. For some of these ducks were just destined to die, and I was on the dog stand with Tom, and man, they backpedaled right over the decoys. I think I was in the 5th grade, so I might have been 11, but I had just gotten big enough to shoot 12 gauge. I had a Wingmaster pump, 2 3/4 inch steel. And man, they come over and just gave it up. And I killed both those greenheads at like less than 10 yards, just folded them and sent the dog after them. And of course, you know, man, old chest puffed out. And I looked over, and the only person happier than me was Harvey. He was peeking out behind the cypress tree. He had that cigar in his hand and or right there, and he was peeking. Boy, you see his teeth. He was grinning big. And that was my first ducks. And golly, we made some memories in that little hole there on the Bayou View. And man, just that was that. You'll never forget that one. You know, that was special. And
It changed forever after that. When you
absolutely.
When you hit the call and then all of a sudden the feet go down, it's over from that point. I don't think there's you can't overcome that spell.
No, it still gets me. It still gets me. You know, it's special, man. And so my uncle and my brother, they planted that seed early, and God, I can remember crying when I couldn't go. You know, the water would be too deep, or it'd be too cold, or it'd be too rough, or there'd be too many people going, and I just couldn't go. And God, my brother would put me on his back, and I'd have heel boots on. He'd carry me across the deep water and set me up on a stump. Man, I'd be freezing to death, but as long as I was shooting, I was fine. I could shoot, man. As a little guy, I could poke that shotgun pretty good, and so it was nice. They always like having me around, you know, for extra shooter anyway.
Right, that's cool, man. It's a great story.
What about y'all? Y'all first ducks in Texas or somewhere else?
Oh, mine was in Texas. Mine was actually my dad's a big deer hunter, and he's got a lease that he's been on since before I was born, and still on now. It's about 8,000 acres in Central Texas, and nobody on that lease. It's a bunch of old men, and nobody duck hunts. And I really wanted to get into duck hunting when I was 14. My high school ag teacher was a big mentor of mine, and he was a duck hunter. Just really a professional redfish fisherman, just all around avid outdoorsman. But I talked my parents into getting me a Christmas gift of a dozen decoys. I think they were Carry Light mallards. And my dad came home one day. I had nowhere to take him to these decoys, but my dad came home one day after Christmas and said, "Hey, the cow pond behind my deer blind is holding a bunch of ducks." He's like, "I don't know what they are, but you want to go out there?" And I'll take you. And so I said, "Sure enough, yeah, let's do it." He put me in this cow pond. There was cinnamon pond. I mean, the thing couldn't have been more than 30 yards wide. There was about a 5-yard hole right in the center, just a metal folding chair, those 12 decoys. I mean, they were coming in there to eat for sure, because that spread, looking back on it, I mean, it was terrible. But those birds, they didn't pass once, man. They came straight in, and it was nothing but woodies and teal. And it was about a box of shells and my dad's a Remington 1100. And I mean, I killed one duck. I killed one wood duck drake out of a box of shells. Of course, it was a modified barrel. You know, I was shooting a full choke essentially at birds that were no more than 10 yards, right? But that was my first duck, was a woody drake. That was my first one. But it's exciting. Awesome. That one sticks with me. I'm still trying to chase that. I still don't think that I've witnessed anything quite like that. Just to have that many ducks just do it right in the hole so quick. And I mean, not even one pass. It was just the way that they were flying from the roost was just perfectly into the wind, where all they had to do was just sit down, you know. But anyways.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. Rusty, I was going to ask you, that rice you plant, how long does it last? Or will that you'll have food the whole season?
So I had that thought a while ago before I ventured off on something else. On another reason that they come is because we've got water. When on a drought year, on a dry year, we do well, and we've got water when nobody else does. So you literally, or you get that first push of ducks, which is usually around Halloween. You got a little water showing. And I say all that to say this year before season, probably the week before season, I don't think I had a grain of rice left. I mean, I don't know how many ducks was in the woods, 40, 50,000. It black in the sky, when they come out, you watch them for 20 minutes go to roost coming out of the woods. Now I'm sure there were some small holes that had some food, but my bigger holes, the gar hole, for instance, I've got some video of before the week before season going in there, and it's insane. But most years, I'd say before the first split's over, most of the food's gone. Now, what you've got though, you got that stubble that holds invertebrates and bugs, and some of that rice when they get in there lightning, so it's going to shatter off and go in the water. So I feel like there's still some smell of rice, and there's probably some rice down there that they don't get. But man, I would say the bulk of it a lot of times is gone before season even starts some years, and definitely after the first split. Because just the volume of ducks, it's a blessing and a curse to have that water, because you've got them, but they eat you out of house and home pretty darn quick because there's nowhere else to go. And when you're flooding that much water much property the way we have to flood it, you can't wait. We're pumping water September 20th or so. I think someone turned my wells on this year. The trees are already the sap's starting to drop. You're not hurting no timber. It's getting on your willows and your buckbrush first. The hardwoods don't get water till mid to late October, I'd say, about the time the ducks are starting to show up. So I guess that's a long way. And a wet year, our food would last longer, but on a dry year like this year, and like a lot of years, it's gone pretty quick.
So y'all do
you got some of the effect.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I was
No,
going to
you're
ask,
fine. You're fine.
do y'all do any field hunting out there, or is it all in the woods?
We don't. So the property is a section of the ground, and 520 of it's woods, and the rest is fields kind of to the east side. If you've watched some of my videos and stuff, you'll see us standing there late in the evening videoing those ducks going in the field. And we've got 2 50-acre fields that are pretty level, and it's a corn soybean rotation for the most part. Let me back up. It's a rice soybean rotation. I plant the bottom end, the low ground of the bean field every year. I plant about 8 acres to 10 acres of corn down in the bottom of that field. And then the 50-acre rice field will leave 10 acres. Now we'll leave like the bottom 3 acres, a solid patch. And then like for the next 10 acres or so, my farmer will cut every other pass. So that way, thinking is they don't get in there and just eat the whole thing out in one day. You want 10 acres of food scattered over 25 acres of property rather than have 10 acres in 10 acres right there, if that makes sense, man. There's kind of a science to it. It just comes second nature to me, but explaining it like this, you kind of realize that, there's a lot more to it than just putting food out there and flooding it. So depending on how much food my corn makes, some years I have a good corn crop over here, and some years it's not so great. Usually I'll flood my soybean / corn field first, thinking there's not as much food in the corn as there is when I flood the rice, because but we're in rice country. My farmer, he's going to make 200 plus bushels of rice every year. That's a lot of food. That's a whole lot of food when you leave it. So you kind of I'll leave my rice field dry, or I'll leave the rice field dry till usually around Christmas, and then we'll flood it. And the thinking there is, fresh food, fresh water, try to hold those ducks through the end of January. And man, it works more times than not. Now you get into a pattern of those ducks going to that field right at dark and then jumping out of the field, hopping into the woods before shooting hours. They catch on pretty quick. It's in their DNA to survive, so they do what they got to do. But that's kind of the way I do our rest fields. We never hunt the fields. It's just strictly rest areas. I'm excited this year. My farmer, he's going to do 50 acres of corn. So he's never really farmed it for corn. He's always He's a bean and rice farmer, but he's had some corn in other places this year. And he offered, he said, "You want me to plant that field in corn?" And, you know, now the whole field's going to get farmed and groomed and treated like a corn farm, so to speak. So I'm excited because he's a heck of a lot better farmer than I am. I mean, so now the whole field will be done and done right. So I'm anxious to see what that corn makes this year. I feel like it's going to be a whole lot more food. You know, I hate leaving. I left a big block of corn one year, probably 12 acres, and I know that don't sound big to most, but for me, it's a lot because it got really tall and was really thick. And rather than those ducks going to our rest area that we have in the woods, they sat in that cornfield all day long, and they wouldn't get up and fly. Literally, they was there daylight till dark. Well, you know, when those ducks go to the woods, we can kill them. You know, they're yes, it's a pain and they'll gang up, but they're still circling and using the woods. But the year that they just used the field, you know, it hurt us because they didn't have to fly over the woods. They stayed huddled up in that field all year. So I learned a lot that year, and I've learned that, you know, Tony Vandemore told me this. He'll plant 40 yards wide of beans, 40 yards wide of corn, 40 yards wide, 40 yards wide, and then you cut the beans out of the middle. So you're showing water, and you've got some patches for security and plus the food, but it's not that huge block, huge thicket that they're going to hole up in and not move. So I have been doing like 16 rows of corn and then leave 40 or 50 yards. 16 rows of corn, leave 40 or 50 yards. I like those strips. So probably this year when my farmer cuts the whole field, I'll probably leave my 10 acres and we'll leave it in strips versus just one big patch, you know, is the thinking. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited though to see what he can make out of it. I think it's going to be really good. And then it might be a year this year, you know, if the corn does great, I may flood my rice field first this year, and then have the corn for later, which I think is actually would be a better deal. They love the security of that corn. Obviously, it's a hot food, you know, for when it's cold. They like that corn. So I don't know. I'm still learning. But it's fun to tinker around with.
We did the same thing with corn this year. In one of our holes, or it's a field, we planted corn on the bottom end and milo, and the ducks pretty much had all the food eaten out of it by Christmas, but they sat in it. You know, they just sat in it. Like you said, they just sit there all day long. They're using
They
it for
love that
thermal.
cover. They love that cover.
Yeah, especially on a real windy day, you know, you'd see them all swimming in and out of it, you know, and then one day, I mean, it's what you shouldn't do, but I had to go work on that blind. I had to go do it, man. And there was no way around it. As much as I fought it, I had to do it that day because I could not do it the next morning. And I looked down there with a spotting scope and probably seen 50 ducks. And I thought, oh, that's not a big deal, you know. And I drove down that levee. Oh my God, there must have been 3,000 in that corn, you know, and that your heart just, you know what I'm talking about, you know, when you
Oh
go
yeah.
out there, like my heart just sunk. I said, oh no, you know, but they were all in that corn, you know, you just couldn't see them, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
A lot
Right.
of,
Yeah. I hate bumping ducks. You know, everyone around us either hunts or leases their fields out. So like that's I try so hard not to ever jump any ducks up, you know, because a lot of those people hunt all day, and you know, if you jump 1,000 ducks up and they fly over, when they get a couple low enough, they shoot them. Well, then they just run those ducks off, and they may or may not come back. You know, obviously, so you know, if you don't bump them though, that odds are they're gonna get up, go roost, and come back the next day. And I think a lot of people, they love to see them and they love to watch them. But man, if you can, like you're talking about, if you can do it from a distance and not bother them, you know they'll be there the next day more times than not.
no doubt.
Yeah, so that brings up an interesting point. I don't get the opportunity to hunt flooded timber a lot, but the times that I have, scouting without trying to scare them up has been the biggest issue for me. So I was curious to hear, what's your method when it comes to scouting?
I like so like if any public land guys watch this, they're going to get in the middle of them, and I don't blame them. But we scout from the edges. You know, the way the property lays. We've got a boat ditch that goes all the way around the property, and I try. And you've got boat trails that are dug to most of the holes. So access is really crucial as far as not bumping them where you can get in and out with having to, in other words, you don't want to drive through your rest area to go to your hunting hole, if that makes any sense. So in the evenings, usually, which we always do what we call a cocktail cruise. That's the owner's one of his favorite things to do. Get you a beverage of choice, go down right before sunset, watch the sunset, and watch the ducks leave the woods. And it is cool. But now you do that for 60 days, you get tired of doing that every evening. I mean, you're dragging. It's like you can close your eyes, you know where every curve, every log, but then you get down there and you see how excited everybody is to see that, and then you watch the ducks come out, and it don't matter how many days you see it, it never gets old. So it's cool. So I say that when we're there watching the ducks fly out, I can tell kind of the height of the ducks, the way they're coming out of the woods. I can kind of tell which end they're on, and I try to even before the cocktail cruise, go down there and listen and watch just around the edges, maybe ease up and idle up a boat ditch here and there, and get an idea of which end the ducks are on. But I try not to ever get in the middle of them. So like if the north end around the Lost Buck hole is just absolutely loaded, but I go to the south end and I see that there's some ducks around the donut hole and there's some east and west of it, then I'm like, all right, well, I can hold all those ducks on the north end and not get in the middle of my big concentration of ducks and still shoot them at the donut hole. And that's huge to not ever get in the middle of your ducks. You've got to be disciplined. Now, hey, if it's the last day of the first split or something, and you're going to be shut down for 2 weeks, I'd get in the middle of them and have an epic hunt to end on, and then let them rest for 2 weeks, and because you're not really hurting anything at that point. But in the way I look at this deal, you want day 60 to be the best that it can be, and that doesn't happen by shooting them hard and leaning on them and shooting into big groups and getting in the middle of them, which is what we're talking about. So, I'll go out the evening before, and the hunting every day. You see what they're doing in the mornings. If you're, well, I should have went here, I should have went there, and a lot of our guys are only hunting one day. They're friends of the bosses, family, business acquaintances, and a lot of times it's a 1 day hunt. So we've got pressure. You got to perform, and we miss it sometimes. But the limit's just a number. We the things we can control, we try to do good at. But you hate to be off a morning. You hate to, if you got 10 guys there and you could have shot 40 if you'd have went somewhere else, and you only shoot a dozen. A dozen or 15 ducks ain't necessarily a bad hunt, but when you know what you could have had, kind of kick yourself a little bit. So I try to get a little intel every morning, every evening, and then the cocktail cruise, and get a game plan from there. That's the owner, Mr. Dobbs. That's what he'll say. I'll say, where you want to go in the morning, boss? He said, I ain't making that call. He said, if you don't get it right, I can fire you. I ain't gonna have it on me. So no, that's kind of what he puts pressure. It on me. So yeah, no, none at all. None at all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What were your numbers? How was y'all season this year, Rusty?
It was Mr. Dobbs bought it in 2010. And as far as and again, we don't talk. Well, I shouldn't say we don't talk. We keep up with it, and it was the most he's killed since he's owned the place.
Had a good year.
Yeah, it was a great year. The best year. I mean, he bought it in 2010, so I guess it's his 13th, 14th season, and it was good. I tell people, he hunted more days than he ever has, which means he's enjoying himself. I got one guy to keep happy. As long as he's happy, everybody's happy. And I tell people I want to make a good living, and I had a decent year, and he hunted a lot, and our numbers. So, I mean, like, that's the numbers we really care about. So it was good. It was a great year. And that's kind of the vibe I get from everybody around here. Everybody had a pretty good year this year. It was well above average. I mean, it's amazing what a good hatch will do. And from the weather I've seen, hopefully we're on track to have another one. I mean, you get 2 or 3 good hatches like this in a row, man, it's going to be good for everybody.
Yeah. We're only about I'm gonna say 2.5 hours from you, man, in Mississippi Delta. We had a really good year.
Mhm.
We did good. We didn't have the mallards. The mallards would come and they'd come and they'd leave and they'd come and they'd leave. Never held the mallards, but we had a pretty good season too. It was good. And Texas was phenomenal this year, man. Duck season in Texas was just one of the best. It's been since the drought in 2011. Hopefully the farmers get rain to plant and make a good crop, but I like those drought years. Those are
Oh
those
yeah,
are
yeah. I hate to sound selfish, but yeah, I mean, I kid my guys here that hunt public. I'll be like, man, it'll be November, first week of November. I'm like, man, I hope it don't rain till February, but which is never the case. But no, I don't mean it that way. There's a good balance there. You want these river systems and stuff to have water, but you definitely don't want it blown out to where it's 20 miles wide in places.
yeah,
That's just no matter how many people hunt. They can always get away from you then. But yeah, Mother Nature controls it all.
one thing we have that I don't think you got over there is good teal hunting, huh? Do y'all do any early season teal?
We don't. Spots do. I'm not really showing enough water at that point. In September, I did go down to Louisiana this year with the realtree guys. Did a little hunt down there, and that was fun. It was hot. We called it, and golly, it was so stinking hot. But it was fun. I'm a guy. I love to shoot. So to go shoot six and I like a little challenge to shoot those teal. It was a good hunt. It was a great hunt. But no, we don't get that a lot. Now we shot some green wings this year. I had a couple of mornings that were we shoot 15 or 20 teal in addition to our mallards, and man, that pads those numbers pretty good when you can do that. You're not normally we shoot 10 limits. It's 40 ducks. It's 40 mallards. I'd say more times than not we go into that's all we shoots mallards. But so when you can go get a couple big groups of teal in, and when the mallards aren't flying, that just pads those numbers a little bit and gives you some appetizers for that night.
Yeah, man, that's one thing we have where we hunt and live is good teal hunting. I mean, you can pretty much bank on killing a limit of teal. Makes us feel real good.
Right,
Thank God
right.
for people.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
You have to
Teal
come
have saved
down.
it.
Yeah, you have to come down to Texas and go teal hunt with us, man. It's a blast. I mean, you can just wear them out.
Yeah,
What are y'all hunting like? Just little ponds or what?
We're on rice mainly. In Texas we have two cuts of rice. They'll get a first cut, and then usually right before teal season opens or during, they'll get a second cut. So that's what we're hunting over is rice. Then we have some moist soil, stuff like that. But pretty much on the prairie, if you've got water and you don't just hunt them every day, you're gonna kill teal. That area where Clayton lives, and between Houston and the coast, it's just the teal mecca. That's where they're going every year. They'll start showing up. Sometimes you'll start seeing them the end of July. The blue wings will start
Wow.
showing up. You get a front in August, man, they're there. And this year it just lined up perfect. We had some early fronts, and it was dry, and the people that pumped, that had water, they were just loaded with birds. So yeah, but mainly
Right.
rice.
So when they do that second cutting, is that a ratoon head, and they farm it that way? That's intentional, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I call it commercial. I mean, it's farming. They're
Gotcha.
farming for rice.
A lot of this new hybrid stuff, here that there'll be people cutting in late August, sometimes the third week of August, but definitely by the first week of September. And 2 years ago, I actually did that. My farmer cut our 50-acre rice field right off the bat. As soon as he got out of the field, I had the airplanes put I think 50 or 75 pounds of urea, and then we turned the wells on, and it made another head. It probably made 10, 15 bushel, which it wouldn't be enough to cut, but that's a lot of food for the ducks.
Yeah, it's something. It fortunately, like for us, some of these farmers, and I mean, I think they're smart. They don't have new equipment, so their equipment leaves a lot of rice in the field, and when we flood that, I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot of food in there for the ducks.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's what people asking. Why is duck hunting changed? Well, farming has changed. For one, there's not, like you just said, there's not a lot of waste grain with these machines. Everything's so efficient, but now everything is planted so early and harvested so early to where what does fall out or shatter off or come out the back end of the combine, if it rains, it's going to sprout, and now your food's gone anyway. And then the same could be said for corn or soybeans or whatever. Whereas, let's just say back in the glory days of duck hunting, however many years ago that would be, I can remember farmers, they just want to have their crops out by Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That was the deal. So literally they're getting the combine out, and 2 weeks later it's rained or it's flooded. And I mean, plus the combine didn't do a great job. No matter how much they run over or how much spilled, it didn't have time to sprout. I mean, ducks loved that. They had it made back then.
Well, it's not only that, but like a lot of times you'll see a combine, a grain cart, and then right behind that you'll have a plow.
Yep, a disc or a Kelly Diamond or something. Yep, that's exactly
So
right.
right after, and then the ones that and I see it a lot, uh, the ones that lease their land out. I don't know if they do this in Arkansas, but like I said, they'll lease a field, a 40 to 100 acre field or whatever, and have 40 acres of water in it. The day after duck season, they're pulling their boards. You know,
Hmm.
they're draining
Yep.
water, and I think the
Yeah,
longer you can leave it, the better. Uh,
absolutely.
it's also better for the farmer too, weed control and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, farming practices definitely have changed, and you can't blame them. They're making a living too. But
No, that's like you was talking about working those fields up, on a dry fall. The more that farmer can get worked up and smoothed up and leveled or disc or whatever, the more he gets done in the fall, the less he's got to do in the spring. And the way this spring's gone, I mean, this weather is just absolutely crazy and raining and cold, and the windows to get it in are pretty small. So anything he can do in the fall is just going to save him time this time of year. So you can't blame him at all.
no, yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah, you got a phenomenal place over there. We appreciate you coming on here to talk to us
Man,
about.
I'm glad to do it. I'm glad to do it. I appreciate you asking me. I enjoy talking hunting, man. I'm just like y'all.
So y'all are doing some duck farming right now, huh? You're getting things ready, or
We're getting it on my mind. Got a buddy building a couple pipes for the corn in the rice field. Our drain pipes are rusted out. The White River's out on the other property. This is honestly, March and April are kind of my slowest months. Not a ton going on. Got two little girls. I say little girls. One's an eighth grader. One's a senior. We got high school softball and JV softball right now. And I'm gone a lot of November, a lot of December, all of January. And I say gone, I mean I'm home at night, but I'm not much company during duck season because it's 4:30 in the morning until 9 at night. Long days. And so when season's out, I rest up and spend as much quality time being present in the moment as I can. So we're softballing right now, and the water's drained, and run out, check on the lodge, check the levees, make sure no trees are down, and but yeah, here as soon as it gets pretty and dries up, it's gonna be go time. And I've had some trees blow over in the ditch, and I got a couple beaver dams to tear out. They don't. I may take a few days off; those beavers don't. So
I wish I had
I
the
got it
work.
on. I got it on my mind.
Yeah, I wish I had the work ethic of a beaver.
No doubt. I'm glad they can't blow a duck call. They put me out of a job.
Yeah. Hey, man, those things. But well, good deal, man. Yeah, we're gonna have to set it up where you come down and teal hunt with us before you get too busy down here in
That'd be
Texas.
fun. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. It'd be cool. You got my attention when you said you got other stuff to shoot too. I like to shoot a bow.
Oh, I know you do. I seen you shooting them ducks with a bow. Yeah, I do. We shoot about 100 whitetail a year through my guide service, and so I guide deer hunts for a living so I can duck hunt for fun. And yeah, we got everything, man. Anything.
Now, is it free range, low fence, high fence? What do you got?
I used to pretty much do all free range hunts, and I had some big ranches leased, and um man, I started to run into the problem where, I mean, there's a balance there when you hunt low fence. You got to make sure that A, you take care of your place, you don't overhunt it. B, you got to have enough animals for everybody to shoot, and C, you got to run enough hunts to pay for everything and make a profit. And that's really hard to do on a low fence place. So I was running into the issue where not everybody was getting it. There'd be times when people come hunting and they wouldn't kill anything, or I'd have to tell them, no, that deer's too young, or, we're going to let him go, and they'd get mad. And so I had to sit down and change the way, the whole business model. And, now we just hunt high fence, but we hunt what I did was I had a lot of different ranches. I picked the best ones with the best landowners. I know you understand that. And now we've got about 5 ranches that we hunt, and good deer, good accommodations. The deer are they're not tame by no means. People,
No.
how it is. High fence has a stigma, especially in certain parts of our country. And our deer aren't like that at all, man. They're wild deer, and I tell people the only difference between my high fence and your low fence is I know my deer aren't leaving. I know your neighbor's not going to shoot my deer. And we can make sure that everybody has the opportunity to have an opportunity at taking something home. So that's what
it's just another management tool is all it is. Like you said, it's just for one, to keep your animals in that you're managing, and to keep trespassers and everybody else out. It's no, I won't knock anybody that hunts a high fence. I mean, now if it was a 10-acre one in the backyard, yeah, I may give you a little grief there, but I mean, I don't know how big it is, but I mean, I even think about, like the woods, Coca-Cola, 520 acres of timber. You say 520 acres, you're like, oh, that's not very big, but them deer got all kinds of places they can go, even on that small track. And I know out in Texas, I went down to Sonora several years ago and turkey hunted, and we were on a 10,000, which turkeys can fly over, obviously, but like we were on a 10,000 acre high fence. The only time you really seen it was when you went in it, or if you rode the fence. It's no different than hunting wild. Yeah. Other than, again, you know that deer didn't go get shot by your neighbor. You can give him another year, or however long he needs to grow. So no, I won't condone that. I won't talk bad about anybody that hunts a high fence.
It's just like you said, it's a management tool, and it's all about how you take care of your deer. All about pressure. I've got a ranch that's it's around 500 acres high fence. It's probably 60% brush, 40% open, and you can't take a Polaris and drive around. If you do that, they shut down. You're not going to see anything. But then I've got another ranch that's about 4,000 acres, and we can have your cocktail cruise out there for 7 days in a row and see deer 24/7. Because they don't get a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? So that's another thing too. I tell people it's all about how you take care of your deer. But yeah, it's people tell me all the time, you got the dream job, and I'm sure you get the same thing, but it's a lot of work, it's a lot of stress, and you're dealing with wild animals. There's only so many things you can control in this business, and making them deer come to the feeder ain't one of them. So high fence gives us a little bit of an advantage, and I'll take it.
Absolutely. That's right.
What are you usually doing in September, Rusty?
Oh, getting deer cameras, kind of out. The other property where we do the deer stuff, getting stands hung and last minute stuff there, and then obviously, the things that you've put off all summer around the lodge, you're working on that. Then you're getting your wells ready, and it's busy. I try to bow hunt the last week of September. We usually will open the last Saturday here and try one in September real quick while they're still done. But not a ton. Squirrel hunt a little bit, work, and of course the kids are back in school at that point, and it's kind of relaxing around a little more without three women, but nothing that I couldn't shake away from for sure.
Yeah, Hayden's got his dove hunts going on then and all that too. There's lodging and everything else.
Oh yeah, we do a lot of dove hunts, but I'm lucky teal season opens the week before dove season opens, so I can usually get a couple days of teal hunting in there, and then we're dove hunting for 20 days, but we'll have to, like I said, man, if you're not too busy, we'll have to get you down here to hunt with us. It'd be a lot of fun.
That would be fun. It'd be fun. I'd love to share camp. Love to share camp and tell some more stories.
Oh, yeah. Hayden's got you mentioned being a girl dad. Hayden's expecting his third girl right now as well, so y'all have that in common.
No, the one thing we don't have in common, I had enough sense to stop after 2.
Man, I like to. I'm not a gambler at all, but I was like, you know what? I'll gamble on a boy because I'm pretty lucky guy. Like I'm not being arrogant or anything, but like I always, just get lucky somehow. And I was like, I think I'm gonna get lucky and have a boy. I think it's gonna happen. And nah, it didn't happen. But till I see it's a girl, I'm not gonna believe it. I gotta see it. So
Right. Yeah, I got two daughters and married to my high school sweetheart. Been married, be 23 years in June, and so there's 3 women in the house, and we got 2 cats, and they're both girls. So I knew after 2 I was outnumbered, and I was like, well, take me out of the game, Doc. So he did.
Oh no, man. You have a duck dog?
I don't personally. My brother's got one. The boss, Mr. Dobbs, bought a finished field trial dog that just the guy had 5 dogs on the trailer and needed to cut one loose, and she wasn't a bad dog. She was just the worst of the 5. I mean, I think she was a $3,500 puppy. I mean, she's the real deal. Jolie, any of the YouTube stuff, the newer stuff she's been on. But so my brother, Mr. Dobbs, paid for her, and my brother, he keeps her because, man, I can't. That's just like my hands are full. The people we take hunting aren't experienced hunters. They're all pretty much pretty green. So you're having to watch all them. You're having to take care of them. I'm watching for groups of ducks. I'm calling. I've got a lot going on, and it just, I love a dog. Absolutely love a dog, and nothing makes a hunt any better than when a dog does well. But with that being said, nothing can mess up a hunt as bad as a bad dog.
Right.
But we do have a dog, and Mike takes care of her and keeps her, and he runs her every day pretty much. I think she went every day, but maybe 4 days last season. She's a machine. She's a firecracker. But I love dog work. I'm a dog guy. I threw bumpers and shot birds for my uncle when he trained years ago as a kid, and yeah, I love dogs. I love them. But they're again, they can make or break a hunt, man. We had to do a rule at the lodge. You can bring your dog to camp, come in, hang out, but your dog don't get to go. Because I've had a lot of people, oh, my dog is this and my dog's that. Well, if you've never seen a good dog, you may not know what a good dog is.
Yep.
So yeah, we try to take Jolie every day, and she saves you some steps and saves you some birds, and ain't nothing like a good dog, a black dog with a green head. Now I've seen some good other colored dogs, but most of the ones I've ever been around have been black. What about y'all?
I've got a dog. He's a field trial line dog. and I think he needs 1 or 2 more passes for his master hunter. But yeah, he's a good dog. And I'm the same way. I'm pretty my wife calls me a dog snob because I'll make fun of people if they got a bad dog. Not I won't I'll quit when they're about to fight me, but I
it's just so easy, man. It's just so easy when somebody's got
yeah,
a bad one.
you won't know my dog is there. He doesn't whine. He's quiet. He's smart. I mean, he's just a good dog, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I've had to pay for him. They're not. You get what you pay for in a dog. I tell everybody that. But Clayton's got
Right.
a good dog too. I actually got my dog. I never owned a good one, and I was like the guys, that you mentioned. Like I thought I had a good dog, but I never had a good one. Clayton had a really good dog when we started hunting together, and that's why I got mine. And for me, I've been gotten invited to go on hunts, and there's they say, hey, we've already got 2 dogs or whatever. We don't have room for another dog. It may be a 10-man limit, but I'm just not gonna go if I can't bring my dog because that's why I go, that's me.
Right.
And for me now, that's the coolest part about going. Uh, but yeah, Clayton's got a
Yep.
really good dog too.
Well, I wouldn't speak as highly about the one I got now. She's a good dog. I think it's just everywhere she's lacking is me, I would say. The dog that I got that Hayden's speaking of, I just had to put her down. She was 14, but both of them were Chessies. Both of them are, Eider is one of them, Chessie, and the other one, her name was Penny, but named after Pintail. Eider's out of a field trial line. Good Time Buddy was her sire, which is, I don't know much about field trials, but Good Time Buddy, I think, was the youngest field champion in the Chessie breed. But yeah, I don't know that I could ever have another breed of dog after owning a Chessie. I know they're hard headed, but they're my favorite. This one's not. She's more the one I have now here. She's more like a Labrador. She doesn't quite have the mind of her own like my first one did, but yeah, that first one I noticed. And talking about a dog make or break in a hunt, that's we got invited. I got invited a lot of places because of my dog. I think my dog's reputation preceded mine. Really, you would hear. I think people talk about my dog before they did it as me being a hunter. But she was just an incredible dog. Like it took me 30 minutes to teach her how to get a beer out of the refrigerator. She never forgot that trick again.
Wow.
One of those dogs. It reminds me of Vandermoor talking about Ruff and that. I don't know if you've seen that short video he did.
Oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
The other one, she got Haiden James Hard. He's actually one of our sponsors. He trained Hayden's dog, and Eider. I was working on the airboat that's in the little picture behind me here, and she got neglected. We're back into it now, but the one thing that I focused on in filming season 1 and then even into season 2 was like, she doesn't need to get a bird as far as I'm concerned. Hayden's dog knows how to work. The more she sits there and honors, the less I have to worry about her breaking in the future or whining and the stupid stuff that ruins a hunt. And she can learn she's definitely got a lot of talent, but yeah, and she did great as far as that goes. And now we're starting to work on finishing up force fetch and working on lining and all that. So I'm excited and coming into filming season 3 here coming up. She's lucky she'll get a pass to Argentina this August, but we'll see. She might have to earn that one like my last one did, but
right. Awesome. Well, they special for sure.
yes, sir.
Man, appreciate you coming on here again with us, Rusty. I know it's late. I gotta go do a axis hunt, turkey hunt tomorrow. So I'm be heading out early in the morning and do that. And I appreciate you getting on here with us, taking your time, man. It means a lot to us. I'm sure you get bombarded with people and asking questions and stuff. So we really appreciate it. And like I said, we'll have to get together this year and share camp. We'll have to plan that.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all asking me. Glad to do it again, man. I'm just eat up with it like everybody else, and I do get lots of questions, and I I kind of pride myself. I do pride myself. I try to get back to everybody. So if you're watching this and I hadn't got back to you, I'm sorry. It's, you know, when I first, the YouTube stuff years ago took off, and then this Instagram, social media stuff, it's crazy how many people you reach and how much feedback you get. But it's awesome, you know, to help people and to get good feedback, and that's why I do it. So it's been fun to watch it grow one at a time.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
thank y'all for having me, and I'll drop y'all an email or a text and get you my number where we can link up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Rusty.
Y'all have a good night. I appreciate you.
You too,
You
man.
too, man. Take care.
See ya.